Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Pulse, live from our studio here in Kokomlemle, Accra. We are live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125. Around the world on myjoyonline.com. This afternoon, we pick expert view on how the Niger crisis will end as the military junta proposes a 3-year transition period, far apart from ECOWAS's drive to have its democracy restored immediately. We have analysis from the experts. Also coming up this afternoon, we take you live to Johannesburg, South Africa, where preparations are underway for the start of the 15th BRICS Summit. Blessed Soga is there for us. We have all the details from this summit for you here. And week-long Chale Uwote Art Festival set to come off at the Black Star Square this afternoon. Well, are there sounds? All of these and more we have for you in this package. It's a pleasure to be with you. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Digny Lu, affordable, safe sanitation for all, and in partnership with Chale Uwote Street Art Festival coming up from the 21st to the 27th of August 2023. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and on myjoyonline.com for these and more. Welcome. Now, the political crisis in Niger is not ending anytime soon, with ECOWAS and the military junta split on how to restore democracy there. Over the weekend, an ECOWAS delegation led by former Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria, Abdul Salam Abubakar, met with the leadership of the military junta and even had discussions with President Bazoum, but they fell short of the ECOWAS demands and immediate restoration of constitutional rule. We have analysis of this for you shortly. Right now, though, let's look at how ECOWAS has dealt with previous coups. If you look at it, we've had 84 coup attempts since 1990 in the sub-region. It has had 50% success rate. That means 43 of it have been successful since 1990. Now, if you look at between 1990 and now, or if you're looking at, say, 1990 and 1999, there were 26 coups. So within a period of 9 years, there were 26 coups in the sub-region. Now, out of that, and again, between 2000 and 2009, another 9-year period, we had 13 coups in the sub-region. Now, let's look a bit more further. We've had between 2010 and 2019, so that's also a period of 9 years, we've had 39. Between 2020 and July 2023, a period of 3 years, we've had 9 coups in Africa, and that's staggering, really. So it means that there are 3 coups every year between 2020 and 2023, July. We've not even ended 2023, but these are the number of coups we have in Africa. So these paint a quite disturbing picture of military takeovers on the continent of Africa. On Friday, ECOWAS defense chiefs concluded their meeting in Accra and signaled their readiness for military action.
It is beyond even our expectation. all the member states have committed, something very concretely, all of them. And yesterday, we had the arrival also of Guinea-Bissau, to join us.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. So everybody is here, and everybody has committed something, for the mission. So we are very pleased with it. Yeah. But like I said, this is a plan B. Okay? We are ready, but we still give peace a chance. We want them to come forward with very concrete, sort of proposal for a peaceful resolution of the crisis. Yeah, and that begins by them receiving a mission from ECOWAS. We have not arrived at a date to deploy the force, and I'm not going to speculate on it. That is not our decision, right? These are the military chiefs of the region who are meeting. You see, when you are going into a military operation, there are plan B, plan A, plan C, and others. And you choose the scenario depending upon development. So I cannot tell you that we've chosen a day to that is an ambiguity we'll always keep.
So we asked the question this afternoon, will the military operation happen? How should the discussions be, knowing that President Bazoum is still under detention? Joining us now is Mukhtar Momoni. He is a security analyst and has been following this matter keenly. Mukhtar, grateful for you to join us here. We're also expecting later on to be joined by Ismail Hrover, who is an international relations analyst. Now, Mukhtar, you have studied this particular issue for quite some time. Over the weekend, ECOWAS and the Niger junta met. It looks like all of us are far apart. The junta says, I will return the country to democracy within 3 years. ECOWAS wants an immediate return to democracy. How must the two parties approach this matter, looking at where we are now?
Well, first of all, for me, I think this is a big window of opportunity and relief in terms of all stakeholders who have been advocating for the use of diplomatic and non-military measures as a mode or tool for intervention in the Nigerian crisis. As you stated in this your analysis, you remember on the second day of the engagement here in Accra, we had communications which was confirmed by Ambassador Musa that they had communications from the junta in Niger that they were willing and ready to engage ECOWAS. And so for me, that was initial moment of great opportunity to take advantage of that, to expand the window of diplomacy, to ensure that we avoid a military type of intervention at all costs. Now, it is clear that there is more than enough goodwill on the part of the military leaders to engage with ECOWAS. ECOWAS's own objective right now or goal should be about how do you work with these military leaders to ensure that we return the country back to civilian rule as soon as possible. But it has to come with a good level of goodwill and good faith from both sides to ensure that both are willing to make commitments that are in the interest of the people of Niger. I think that at the moment, ECOWAS needs to make a significant shift in terms of their posture and approach to negotiating with the military leaders. That posture is important because if you notice, since the 30th of July, the military leaders declined to meet with ECOWAS and ECOWAS's negotiation team. Yeah. And it was largely because of the lack of good faith and goodwill in dealing with that. There was some level of deficit of trust in dealing with them. Now they have made a commitment to engage with ECOWAS. ECOWAS needs to work beyond just, the threat. And I can see that ECOWAS still makes some kind of commentary and insistence that do not, help in terms of building goodwill. I don't think that it's about insisting that they must return the country to civilian rule on a particular date. It has to be a working process of negotiation to ensure that all of them make commitments and arrive that is good in the good interest of the people of Niger.
Which means ECOWAS is getting it wrong on the approach. What must they do now? Because they want a return to democracy now. The junta says 3 years. So they do.
It's not just ECOWAS that wants a return to democracy. Every actor, every stakeholder, including even the military leaders in the country, they recognize that the ideal and desired form of government is civilian democratic rule. And that is why they have communicated their commitment to returning the country to civilian if you've been following ECOWAS probably in the last 4 or 5 years and how they have responded to situations, you would understand the difficulty that ECOWAS is involved in right now. ECOWAS is very challenged in terms of legitimacy, in terms of confidence from the region. People think that ECOWAS has been weak and incapable of leading as a regional body in terms of building, a foundation of goodwill, taking care of regional security matters. And so they think that is an opportunity to ensure that ECOWAS is deterrent enough, ECOWAS is effective enough in ensuring regional peace and stability as a regional leader. And so that's why you see these kinds of measures and approach that is being adopted by ECOWAS. But the danger is that you would have this kind of situation undermine the efforts, the peace process that you're looking to initiate in dealing with the coup leaders. Because if you take very, very strong positions without committing to any, reform, any kind of change, it makes it difficult for the coup leaders to want to work with you. And I think that ECOWAS needs to take a bit of a step back and engage on the basis of goodwill and good faith to ensure that they work in the interest of the people of Niger. Okay,
but is it just the ECOWAS leaders, or the junta needs to also relax a bit in its stance?
Sure, it's two-way. It's a two-way street that both have to make commitments. So first of all, we need to understand the operational objectives for the coup leaders. Why did they undertake this coup? If you go back to the June 28th speech by the coup leader 2 days after this coup took place, you would understand, the factors and the list of grievances that they have listed in this speech. It tells you they are talking about the situation of security in the country, security that has gone so bad, and that leadership at the time wasn't capable of responding to the security situation. They're talking about deterioration in terms of governance, in terms of the economy and other social factors. So this publicly forms the basis for what the coup, why the coup took place. And so if they did that, what are the objectives of their mission? We are all talking about returning the country to civilian rule. How do we ensure that we lay an infrastructure, a foundation that allows this to happen in a very smooth, very, very, a very smooth manner to ensure that we do not get back to the situation that brought us here? That involves laying a credible electoral foundation. Elections must be able to take place in an environment of peace, in an environment that is devoid of rigging and malpractices. It is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy task. Even a country like Ghana that is known to be stable and democratic in terms of credentials, 1 year, 2 years is not a good enough time. It's not enough to lay a foundation for credible elections. And so you don't expect that to happen in Niger or any of the countries that are currently dealing with coup situations. We have to be very realistic about the timelines that we're looking at. I know that ECOWAS is insistent on this because of principle. The principle that no country within this space must be led by by military leadership. We have to ensure that principle is upheld. But you don't uphold that principle at the expense of security and at the expense of livelihood and at the expense of the entire population. As we speak now, it is not the coup leaders who are suffering. It's the people of Niger who are suffering, who are going through daily hardships. In terms of the economy, the borders are closed. They cannot transport goods out of the country. They cannot trade with their regular clients. They cannot get access to electricity and several other important social amenities they need. And it's largely because of ECOWAS's deterrent measures that they believe would have compelled the coup leaders to succumb or submit to them. And unfortunately, that is not working. So we need to take a step back and review all these processes and construct a posture that is supportive of goodwill and peace to ensure that we go through this peacefully and in the interest of the people of Niger.
Let me bring in Dr. Ishmael Hrobo, who is an international relations analyst. Dr. Grateful for joining us here. What do you make of the feed that was chalked over the weekend, where eventually ECOWAS had its delegation being met by the junta leadership? Dr. Hrobo, are you with me? I'm trying to find out from you what you do make of what happened over the weekend, where the leadership of the junta and ECOWAS met to have some deliberations of a sort over the future of Niger.
Okay, good afternoon and
for a very long time, the two parties seem to be operating from different positions. So as they now have the chance to talk, that means that we are making a headway, because talking means that every party to this dispute will now have the chance
to talk. That means that every the other and then may be able to negotiate with the other, so that their common position can be arrived at. So that's the first step to trying to avoid a situation of combat or a situation of war, which would not be helpful to the South region.
Well, from how things are, how do the two teams build on from where we are? I mean, we're all at both ends. We need to have a compromise. How do we go about it?
I've always said that the approach by ECOWAS that the military...
Yes, of course.
I think we need to, forgive me, we have to fix this challenge so that we can, come back to you. This is still the pause on the joining channel. So Mukhtar Mumini is still with me. Mukhtar, so what are your expectations from where we are now?
Well, my expectation is that we would see this as a huge opportunity for diplomacy to work over military intervention, and that we would expand that opportunity to ensure that we work with the military leaders to help them transition into a civilian rule. It doesn't help to take intransigent positions or to take positions that are undermining of goodwill in terms of negotiations. There's a reason that the coup leaders chose to meet with other stakeholders apart from ECOWAS and not ECOWAS. And it was largely because of the posture that ECOWAS constructed from the beginning, because ECOWAS came across as though, in a manner that, created an impression of a very belligerent force that is intended to go to war at all costs with Niger. And so that kind of approach must be revised and act in a way that elicits goodwill from the coup leaders to ensure that we transition the country into civilian rule. I think that all of us, at the moment, all of us, we're excited that this is working in the way it's working. The coup leaders are interested in dialoguing. They've talked about, a roadmap, a plan towards transitioning the country into a civilian rule. We need to take that into consideration and negotiate with them. If it can come as soon as possible, it is great, because we need to be able to get the country back into civilian rule, but on a foundation that is functional, that responds to the needs and aspirations of the people. There's a very big element that we haven't been talking about, and that is the elephant in the room. How did we get here? What brought us to this point? We haven't spoken enough about those factors. We haven't talked about the issues of good governance. We haven't talked about the pervasive culture of corruption that permeates within officialdom and the structures of governance. We haven't talked about dysfunctional institutions in these spaces that allow for these things to happen. These things are key. If we do not lay a foundation that fits these things, we will return to coups. It doesn't matter how many times we seek to intervene. And so for me, from the beginning, as I said earlier, look, the military intervention in Niger does not mark the end of coups in West Africa or Africa. The end of coups will be marked by our capacity to respond to the needs of the people, to do what I call meeting the entitlements of citizenship and ensuring that we address issues of corruption and pervasive situations of dysfunctional institutions in all the spaces that we're looking at.
Interesting. Let me bring in Ishmael Holover now, who joins us via phone now. Doc, I'm grateful for rejoining. So I wanted to find out from you, what will be your advice to both teams? Now, the junta says, I want to return in 3 years. ECOWAS says we need it now. We all know that in negotiation, we need to meet each other halfway. So how do you expect both teams to move from where we are? I mean, to move on from where we are now.
In any negotiation, you have to always have a position to compromise. I think ECOWAS needs to compromise on having the country return to civilian rule now and having the former president reinstated. That is not possible. So perhaps having pushed the military junta to bring out a timetable, they may negotiate the way of that timetable in the sense that they have said at this point, this must happen, so that we can have a measurable target along the 3-year span. What and what will be achieved within the first year, what will be achieved within the second year, and then finally within the third year when the military will return the country to civilian rule. And that can be done because ECOWAS already have sanctions in place. Then it is easy to use those sanctions as a bargain. Where you say, well, if you meet this particular target that you set for the first year, this and these sanctions will be lifted. And if you meet this other one, then this and these sanctions will be lifted until we return to civilian rule. And that is the only way to go. So ECOWAS must come back and realize that the whole objective of saying that return the country immediately to civilian rule and bring back the former president is not attainable, in the sense that there are certain conditions that push them to make the coup. And of course, it is not so possible for somebody to test political power and go back to the barracks as easily as that. It's not going to work. So
Okay.
I think that the posture of hand over power immediately and return to the barracks have to give way to where we have a compromise. Of course, they could also push the military to shorten the time frame for return to civilian rule. Maybe from 3 years, we could look at 2 years, so that then all the achievable targets within 2 years is well documented, and then the sanctions are used as a backup to force them to return the country to civilian rule. So, of course, on both sides, there should be compromise.
I mean, over the weekend, I had the South African president speak to Joy News in South Africa, where, because there's going to be the BRICS Summit, he was talking about what he's going to discuss, with President Putin. How do you expect the international community to react to the latest development in Niger? I mean, with regards to ECOWAS now making headway of meeting the junta to discuss the way forward of issues.
So what happens is that once we are now talking, trying to get the diplomatic solution, what would then happen is that then the international community will respond by giving both parties the chance to try to reach a negotiated settlement. Because even it is not in the interest of neither party or even the international community to have a military solution to this crisis. So that makes the work of even the South African more easy, in the sense that when they meet Putin, it's not about discussing intervention. They may be discussing ways that Russia could also help to make sure that the process of returning to civilian rule is achieved. So the military option is no longer the sole option on the table. There are diplomatic options. Then South Africa could now discuss with Russia how Russia can be part of this process of ensuring that that country returns to civilian rule.
Why must Russia be part of the process anyway?
Of course, we are in a sub-region where major powers are trying to find their grounding. And as you can see, the coup makers seem to have some sympathy for Russia. We cannot establish yet if Russia is directly involved, but given the flags and all those things, there's the likelihood that they are connected to the coup makers somehow. So, yes, in trying to find a solution, they may be involved, because if you look at it, all the Western powers seem to lend to the support of ECOWAS. and the coup makers seem to go to the Russian side. So if you are going to have a solution, these major powers have to be part of the solution, because their actions are part and parcel of the problem. If you look at the coup, France seems to be one of the subjects being raised by the coup makers. So, and they seem to reason that Russia is a better partner. So if they think that Russia is a better partner, then Russia is in a position to somehow influence them in terms of their direction.
But from what is happening, doesn't it look like, you know, the West scrambling for Africa again?
Of course, that is already in process. We have seen, not only because of this coup, but over the years, various parties, the geopolitical competition between China, Russia on one side, and the Western world on the other side, trying to get partners through various deals, through various arrangements. So yes, we are living in a time of changing global dynamics and geopolitical competition. And once you live in this era, you must be prepared to deal with these powers, because all of them want friends, all of them want territories that are friendly to them. So that is also one of the reasons why these coups will become rampant within the region if we don't address some of the fundamental challenges. Because from the 90s, where it was a purely U.S.-dominated world, where the U.S. can push everybody into democracy, the dynamics have changed. Now you have other entrants, other major powers, other rising powers who do not necessarily care about democracy. They are interested in who is in power, who can do their bidding. So if you have this kind of dynamic, then you realize that the backing for Western democracy is, at a point, it was that difficult to make a coup, because all the major powers at that time were coming for democracy. Now it is quite easy, because you may find partners within the geopolitical divide. So coups have become easier to organize, and international support will be there. One of the reasons why it is so difficult to get a UN Council resolution to support efforts in terms of going to Niger is because then you have Russia, you have China, who will stand by the principle that they will not interfere in the domestic affairs of another country, and therefore are likely to use their veto to block any such resolution. So yes, we are living in a time of geopolitical competition, and Africa only have to stand up to this competition and stake a claim for their own interests.
Momoni, I don't know whether you subscribe to this, that, you know, the West is scrambling for Africa. If you do, how then do you think we all should progress so that we don't hurt a lot of feelings involved here, to arrive at an amicable solution, everybody benefit, and then we move on?
Africa has never been away from the scramble in the hands of the West and other partners. Ever since the bond of 1844 and the Berlin, meeting, we've always been under these kinds of factors from external actors. And so what is happening may be an amplification of that same thing in very recent history. But we have never, ever moved away from it. Now, this world is a place of a battle. It's a battleground. And so it's either you get prepared for it or you get perished. And so the competition that exists amongst actors, it's like that. It's a competition that you need to get prepared for. Otherwise, you get victimized by it. So, if we have vulnerabilities like we have in West Africa, we will inevitably attract foreign actors. And foreign actors will be interested in, they have interest in here, and they will pursue any engagement in line with their interests. It is up to us to put our acts together in a more, stronger position to engage internationally in the interests of our countries and interests of our nations. Yes, we talk about geopolitics. We're talking about Russia here, Wagner. We're talking about the EU, the West, and even to some extent, the Gulf, states. All of them are interested in what is happening in the Sahel and in West Africa generally. And it's because of the enormous, resources, the natural resources that we have, and what it can potentially do to industrialization in those countries. Okay. Russia is looking for raw material all over the world. and they're using what they have in terms of expertise and in terms of money, finance, to be able to get that in exchange for that. Russia is using, the capacity of Wagner to restore stability, to restore security among their partners. In exchange, they get resources and they get, the support they need international. They leverage on that. The same way America and the West, they are selling democracy. They're selling the values of democracy and the values of good governance. How attractive is it to West Africans at the moment? Not much, because everything shows that in the last 15 years, democracy seems to be under siege in West Africa. They are less, a lot of young people are less interested in the fortunes of democracy than they are about the fortunes of engagement with Asia, especially China, and other actors that look more pragmatic when it comes to dealing with the problems that we deal with on a daily basis. And so those things, form the elements that we have to look at in conversations and discourse that will lead to how do we chart a new path of independence, not just political independence, economic independence, social independence, and all the things that resilient and sustainable nations need to build to ensure that you are insulated from foreign interests in a manner that undermines your own interests. We haven't reached that, and there isn't any indication at the moment that we are properly tooled to do that. And that's why I'm very worried about how we engage in Niger, because the way we go about it may actually undermine the security situation of the country and the entire region, or mark a new beginning of a region devoid of violence, devoid of insecurity, devoid of instability, and devoid of coups. And that is not what we are seeing at the moment.
Very interesting thought here, which means that there's a broader, picture that we all need to look at. But is it not dangerous that it looks as though we are playing into the hands of all of these superpowers who are scrambling for the resources of Africa? If that is it, how must ECOWAS use Niger's case as a test case to try and wean ourselves from the influence of the superpowers?
You're right. We are not tooled at the moment to, in practice, wean ourselves of the foreign influence that we see. We are not properly tooled at the moment. Economically, we are at the mercy of Western partners and partners from Asia. Look at the state of our economies all over here. We are in a very poor state when it comes to our ability to fund the key initiatives that we need to build in terms of building an infrastructure for developed and sustainable countries. We don't have that. When it comes to the institutions, we don't have that. We have run down institutions and we continue to engage in antics that further deteriorate our situation. Recently, you hear of the government looking for funding to develop something that relates to public service protocols or something like that by the Bank of Ghana. Things like that are ridiculous.
Going to the IMF to seek for funding to draw up the ethics to govern public service.
Exactly. This is not something we should be talking about right now, let alone go for funding to do that. This is ridiculous. For a 40-year democracy, 30-year democracy that is seen as an example for a region. And so these things, it should worry all of us. If we look at the entire sub-region, the security situation is in a mess. In fact, and I speak from the point of security and violent extremism where I work. 2015-2014 was the peak of terrorist violence globally. And in fact, that period was the deadliest year for terrorism in West Africa. So West Africa, in effect, was leading globally in terms of fatality. So it was the deadliest region. And we're looking at numbers at around 7,000, 7,500 people in terms of fatalities. Today, after the first 6 months of this year, we recorded over 4,600 fatalities. It tells you that by the end of the year, we will surpass the numbers that we recorded in 2014, 2015. We have over 1,800 attacks. It tells you that by the end of this year would be the deadliest year for terrorism globally since September 11. And that epicenter of violence is in West Africa. Wow. A situation like that tells us that we are not in any position at all to contain the terrorist violence that we are looking at. And if you cannot contain security within your space, then you have no capacity to sustain any gains that you make. There's a Cicero, there's a Roman philosopher or statesman who talks about security and the state, and that the highest law of the land is the security and protection and livelihoods of the people. If you cannot guarantee security, you cannot guarantee anything. That's why I'm worried about the fact that, we are not in any capacity, in a position to gain, talk about independence, political or economic independence. Because even the basic things, we have shown incapacity to deal with them. And it's up to our leaders now to take a break and ensure that we build a sustainable foundation for these things to take off. Other than that, we're in a bad state.
Very scary picture you paint there. So if you look at it, how do you expect what is happening in Niger to end?
Well, I think that if I were part of ECOWAS as a team, I would see this as a big opportunity now. It saves us a lot of fatigue. It saves us a lot of resources and time because the cool guys are willing to engage now. And from a strategic point of view, I may not take off the military option away completely at the moment because it could still be used as a strategic tool for negotiations. But I would be very mindful of the language you use in dealing and communicating with them. It must be in a tone that is supportive of a process that is built around a common cause. And that common cause is to build an infrastructure and a foundation to return the country to civilian rule. Already, and luckily, Ambassador Musa had already mentioned, they are not against Niger. They are not against the people of Niger. They are actually acting in the interest of the people of Niger. So in that spirit, the way you engage with the military leaders must reflect that reality and that understanding and ensure that they work together as a team. In spite of what must have happened in July 26th, we need to take into consideration the larger interests of the people of Niger and ensure that we return the country back to civilian rule, rather than seeking to project ECOWAS as, some authoritarian regional big power player that is capable of restoring order and security in this space.
Dr. Horovo, from what Mumuni has said, it means that geopolitically we are not independent as a continent. Talk less of a sub-region, which means that we may probably have to rely on Russia, which is of course the darling of the junta, to then take us through. Shouldn't that be our option?
Of course, as I said, we also need to engage all those external forces that we think have an influence in this situation, because their interest is at play. So if we don't engage them, the solution will not come the way we want to. So yes, geopolitically, the South region has really not been independent. Leaders come and play to one of the several major powers at any given point in time. So we must observe carefully. France's interest is there. Russia's interest has entered the terrain. So all these powers, you must engage them and get a solution that brings virtually everybody on board to ensure that we achieve a certain balance. That is very important, because without achieving that balance, the solution you may come out with may be unacceptable to one side.
Oh, very, very interesting here. Now, once ECOWAS has gone in there and they've had some sort of discussion, we can bring in Russia to also play a role. Do we have to leave that to South Africa to lead it now that they are in that partnership with Russia in BRICS, or ECOWAS should still go ahead and front it?
But South Africa is still part of Africa, the larger African Union. So if they think that they have the relation between South Africa and Russia, if they think they can leverage on that relation and get Russia to act in a more responsible way to support a process of returning this civilian rule, then they should be able to do that. It is more importantly, it's about how we are addressing this issue and the underlying costs. If we don't deal with those ones, we may handle this one and another one will crop up. Because we look at it, if ECOWAS can mobilize forces within the period that they are acting, bring all the military chiefs together to draw a plan to intervene, to restore civilian rule in Niger, what prevents ECOWAS from bringing these military teams together to put up a force to deal with the terrorist menace within the Sahel? So you see that it's as if we are just interested in maintaining elected leaders. I will not. Some of these elected leaders do not actually operate what we call democracy. In fact, they only win elections, and that seems to be all they know. So you win elections, whatever means you use to win it doesn't really matter. Once you are elected, then it becomes like a blank check to do whatever you want. Now, if you look at the military option and all the things that they are doing, they seem not to be thinking about the wider group of the region. Because if it is about the interests of the people of West Africa, the first thing we should be concerned with is the terrorist menace. ECOWAS chiefs, ECOWAS countries, to put the tools there to be able to deal with it. If you don't put your tools there to deal with it, and then an elected leader is disposed, then you said that that's when you put tools there. Then it means you are not dealing with the fundamentals of the issue. The insecurity, the other issue. If you allow leaders in the sub-region to remove the term limit and go scot-free, which is more or less constitutional coup, and don't say anything, and then military people intervene, and you say that this one will not be accepted, then you are not actually dealing with the roots. So yes, of course, we can have a solution, but the solution to Niger will not end the coups in West Africa. We must begin to deal with the underlying causes. What are the underlying causes? That when our leaders win elections, they virtually interpret the mandate to mean that it is a blank check to do whatever policy they want to pursue. And if you look at the economies of these nations that are preparing to go to war, they are struggling. The question is, how are you going to finance war when your economy are struggling? Are you taxing your citizens who are suffering to go and finance war? So you are also virtually committing the same blunder that is leading to the coup. So the option they have pursued from the beginning would rather reinforce the reason for the coup, not dealing with the causes of the coup. So yes, whatever solution we pursue, whatever angle we take it from, we must do the fundamental causes, the issue of youth unemployment, the issue of backsliding democracies, where people are tinkering with the very principles enshrined in the Constitution to protect them. Some of them remove people who the Constitution guarantee their appointment and put other people there just to do their body. If you run democracy like this, you run at the risk of ultimate coup d'etat. So if we don't deal with some of these issues, no matter how we engage the outside world, these issues permit them to kind of penetrate the system and do what they want to do. You are able to do what the citizens expect you to do, and they are happy with you. It is so difficult for the military to take the coup and get a support. They are only able to get support within the situation of the current leadership crisis we are facing with the sub-region, where leaders are virtually pursuing policies that enrich themselves and impoverish the rest of the population.
Should, a reenactment of the Niger Constitution be one of the, strategies to get the junta to agree to probably hand over power? Is it something that could work magic?
Of course, the junta has already conceded that, yes, they will return to civilian rule. And ultimately, while the Constitution has been abrogated, I would think that they will not return to civilian rule on the same constitution, because that constitution will contain provisions that prohibit anybody from overthrowing the constitution in the first place. So there will be a process of trying to get a new constitution in place, which may somehow reflect some of the concerns of the South. So ECOWAS must be interested in what is the nature of that constitution, what are the guarantees the constitution offers for office holders that are critical. For instance, the electoral commission, the justices, all those critical. So those are the dynamics, those critical provisions that will guarantee the democracy. And more importantly, we must be interested in how the constitution is functioning in a way that allows the citizens to exercise a lot of control over leadership.
Now, I'm reading from the ISS and their report on how to deal with coups. One of the things they state is that since the surge in coups in 2021, successive PSC chairs, including Ghana and the Gambia, have persisted in tabling the issue for discussion. the need for a lead state or champion in this conversation cannot be overemphasized. As has become clear over the years, the AU is more robust when its capable member states champion particular issues in a context of collective continental commitment. So what they are asking for is a state to lead all of these discussions to get us out of where we are. Is that how you think we should go about it, for one state to be the champion lead in all of the discussions?
You see, sometimes you need a country that will act a little bit as a hegemon within the region in order to have that influence over all the other parties. Yeah, that's an option that can be pursued. But then that option then raises the question, which of these countries in West Africa? Is it Nigeria? Is it Ghana? Is it Cote d'Ivoire? Now, in terms of democratic virtues, in terms of democratic institutions, Ghana seems to be more credible than the others. Because if you look at Nigeria, some of the democratic institutions are not as robust as Ghana. For example, if you look at the election that brought their current president to power, it's quite controversial and questionable. So if you have him as the lead, then somebody will begin to question what is the democratic credentials of this man to lead this process. And then again, so in terms of having Ghana, yes, we may be able to play the role, but then we will need a lot of resources to push others around to do what we are doing. Nigeria seems to be bigger, it seems to have the military crowd, it seems to have a lot, but then their own democratic institutions are not that robust. If you look at how they dealt with issues of demonstrations and protests, if you look at even their own ability to maintain security within Nigeria, dealing with the Boko Haram menace, that should tell you that they themselves may not be the best bet to lead this process. So the question with that approach is then, who then leads the process? Because the person might have a wherewithal in terms of the democratic trapping, in terms of a robust economy, that will permit it to then focus on addressing some of these international issues. But currently, we don't have, within West Africa, we don't have that outstanding democracy with the resources and the might to influence others. If we take Cote d'Ivoire, Cote d'Ivoire have gone through a process where virtually they were tinkering with their own constitution. So they all have their own baggages that they are carrying. So that approach, well, it is one of the ways to go, may be difficult within the current circumstances. As you see, then it may be South Africa. But then South Africa also is within the broader African context. It may not be able to have that level of influence it may have if it is in the SADC region in West Africa. So among the three countries, Senegal, you look at Senegal itself, the democratic credentials are going down. So they are not able to stand up to push others to democratic rule. I think that the best recommendation in West Africa is Ghana. But then again, will our economy situation allow us to play such a role?
Like Nkrumah did some time ago when countries were seeking for their independence. Now, the U.S. Institute for Peace is also enumerating certain things. And I come to you, Mumuni, here. It says that some U.S.-based analysts have proposed that we should allow democracy to lead in us stemming the tide in these coups. Now, they've said make democracy a greater priority with a more consistent, coordinated strategy and programs. They've said buttress the pro-democracy mechanisms of regional groupings such as the ECOWAS and the African Union, both in preventing coups and in responding when they take place. Build better transitions to democracy. But it is the same democracy that has brought us here. So how do we build on this to give assurance that it is the way to go? Do you ever foresee the junta, relaxing in their demands, as in restoring democracy in 3 years?
Well, democracy, of course, we'll all come to agree to accept that democracy is the worst form of government, but it is the best among the existing forms of government. What it means is that it is not a given For democracy to work here, we have to be very deliberate and intentional about the way we raise leaders. Leaders who are human rights compliant, leaders who are effective and functional in responding to the needs of the people. Democracy should be about people, not about power. And we have seen it across the entire African space in the last half century. We have been incapable of sustaining democracy. And it's largely because the factors that the foundation on which we build democracy is a very, very weak one. For instance, we would continue to have instability. We would continue to have coup kind of situations and insecurity and instability if the focus of leadership, the leadership that we put in place to manage the affairs of our countries, if their focus is on power and not on the people. Because in all cases, democracy should be about the people and their needs and aspirations. How do you build a foundation and an infrastructure that responds to the needs and aspirations of the people? So, for instance, where I work in security and preventing violent extremism, we have come to appreciate that it appears that terrorist groups seem to understand young people better than the street. They are able to understand the frustrations, the vulnerabilities around young people, their aspirations, and they are able to meet these aspirations. And so they have very loyal and dedicated followers who are ready to take up a gun and a motorbike, $100, and they are committed to do the job. Our governments are actually on the way. They are in the way of young people instead of leading them and providing infrastructure for them. If we look at the entire West African space, we truly understand what democracy is about in terms of the theoretical understanding of what it is. And we do not have that culture that we need, the very deliberate foundation that we need to build to sustain democracy. And that's why you see countries, they move 2-3 steps and they move 2 steps back. Look at the case of Niger. Niger, experienced something that everybody was very excited about, including international players, the United States, the EU. Everyone was excited about the progress Niger was making. Because for the first time, they had transitioned from a democratic rule, civilian rule, to another civilian rule. This same president that, has been affected by this coup, President Bazoum, just the day before, 2 days before he was meant to be sworn in, there was a coup attempt. And so it tells you that the country has always been very vulnerable to coup situations. It's part of the modest gains they were making in terms of democracy. Democracy exists, but it's not sustainable. We are unable to sustain it because we are not intentional about the way we groom leaders to lead these countries. And if you look at what happened in Guinea, the same way, the Guinean situation is a situation that, I can characterize as individuals who were angered by the pervasive situation of plunder and fakery in public office. Because these are people who surround the president. They see what goes on every single day in the presidency, around the president, of the cameras. The impunity with which they lead can anger these guys to take the cool decisions that they have taken. Okay. And if you notice, have you seen in all the 4 situations, nearly all of them are not the regular military guys. These are guys who are presidential guards, who are around the president day and night, and they see what the president does off camera, on camera, the plunder, the fakery, the corruption, the impunity that comes with public office and politics. That can anger any human being who will remain enough to respond to the people. Because these guys see in the open how people struggle on a daily basis, and yet there's too much waste going on. And they are encouraged by the human spirit to undertake a coup. And that's why we're seeing that happen. And so for us to prevent the spate of coups, to stop the spate of coups from happening, we need to build an infrastructure that is very deliberate about how to sustain democracy. The issues of good governance, human rights issues. How do you respond to the needs of the people? That's what I call the entitlements of citizenship.
Okay.
That is what can help stop this spate of coups.
Okay. But I wanted to find out from you, and if you can do this for me in a minute, do you foresee the junta leadership relaxing in their demand of returning democracy, returning the country to democracy in the next 3 years? Do you foresee them doing that?
Well, if you listen to conversations, if you have contacts in there, you speak to people around, around leadership, These are guys who are not, they have been encouraged by the developments in the country to do what they have done. And I believe that.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the 4-day super sale, August 18th through the 21st, and get 40% off paints and stains with prices starting at $26.69. That means 40% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 40% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
They would go through that. They will do the promise to transition the country to civilian rule within 3 years. I don't think that they would renege on that promise. But more importantly, it's not about them. It's not just about the coup leaders. It's about everyone. It's about the citizens and ECOWAS and other stakeholders. So we will have to work together with them to ensure that we transition the country back to civilian rule.
All right. Grateful to you, Mukhtar, for joining us. Dr. Hovo, before I let you go, your final words on how to deal with the Nigeria situation. Okay. I think we've lost Dr. Hovo there, but you're still watching the Pulse here on the Joy News channel. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back, and we'll be taking you straight to South Africa, where the BRICS Summit will be happening. Stay with us.
Smile, Look lively, okay? Smile, smile. Is the money too small? A bad stomach ruins your day. Don't let it. Take Gastron, your most effective antacid for the relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, heartburn, gas pain, flatulence, and indigestion.
Hey guys, what are you waiting for? Let's go, let's go.
Mwah. Can you bring down the smiles more? Gastron, effective relief from stomach discomfort. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see SINTEX. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
When everybody came out, everybody's looking good, displaying their art, beautiful art everywhere. This is my 5th year coming in a row. So I'm here every August for the festival. It's been amazing being with my black people all day, every day. It's been great. It's so fun here. There are a lot of art things to do. So I personally love it. And I love the artworks. I love Chalote 2022.
It's fantastic. This year's experience is marvelous.
It's amazing. It's Chalote Festival, y'all. You ought to be here.
The paintings, the people, the Ghanaians were awesome. everyone, when you're in Ghana around the same time, make sure you check it out. It's really happening.
So welcome back from the break. Let's look at the BRICS Summit, which is happening in South Africa. My colleague Blessed Soga is there with us. But first, let's look at how the BRICS and all of that, all of what they stand for, what the intent is, and what is the focus of this particular meeting. Now, so if you ask yourself what is BRICS, BRICS stands for a coalition of countries. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRICS includes these 5 countries. Now, this was founded in 2009 as an informal club to challenge U.S. and Western dominance. So that is the purpose. They want to challenge the dominance by the U.S. and the Western countries. The BRICS, so let's look at the capacity of this union. The BRICS collectively constitute a quarter of the global economy. So if you divide the global economy into 4, BRICS takes 1 of that. The BRICS makes up over 40% of the world's population. So if the world's population is 100 million, BRICS alone has 40 million of that population, and we are 8 billion people, so do the math. Now, their focus includes economic cooperation and increasing multilateral trade and development amongst the member states. 5 of them: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which is in Africa. So which nations want to join BRICS and why? We understand that over 40 countries have expressed interest in joining the forum, according to 2023 Summit Chair, South Africa. That's why the summit is happening in that country this year. Now, we understand that Iran has submitted their interest to join. Argentina, Cuba, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Bolivia, Comoros, Ethiopia. All of these countries have expressed interest in joining BRICS. So it tells you that BRICS is probably doing something right. So why do these countries want to join BRICS? According to what we understand, they view BRICS as an alternative to global bodies. They also believe membership will unlock benefits, including development finance and increased trade and investment, because you know what China is doing now, you know what Russia is doing. And when you bring on board India, which is a very large economy, you look at South Africa, which is a powerful player in Africa and the international geopolitics, it tells you that all of what they are looking at is something that is worth it to try, because they think when you join them, there will be increased trade and investment to you. So these are some of the reasons why these countries want to join the BRICS now. And the summit is happening in South Africa because it is the chair for this year. My colleague Blessed Soga is joining us for a conversation from South Africa now. Blessed, first of all, has the summit started or it hasn't?
Well, Grace, it's good to be connecting with you from Johannesburg here in South Africa. The 15th BRICS Summit is underway. Just last night, the president of South Africa, Cyril addressed the nation, indicating that the country is ready to host over 50 leaders who are expected to be a part of this summit. Now, this summit is very important, knowing that the geopolitical issues and matters relating to economic and financial reform is key on the agenda for the world. We know that after the COVID-19 pandemic, many countries have been trying to explore looking for new alliances to boost economic, rebound, and also to ensure that the world is a safer place for all. It's a reason for which BRICS, which usually and traditionally was the ally of Brazil, Russia, India, and China, as well as South Africa, we're beginning to rethink and to reshape this multilateral body to include the rest of Africa, and not just Africa, but they're now seeking to do an outreach, which we see more and more countries applying to be a member of that alliance. The alliance is very critical because if you look at some of the leaders, we have China which is a trading partner to Africa, not just Ghana, because if you look at the trading figures of China, there's a clear indication that this is a country that is with the continent. So it does suggest that these are the reasons for which the multilateral framework is seeking to do what it calls an outreach together with more African countries to participate in the BRICS. So that would be a new alliance that will shape development, that will reform, growth. Is the reason for which we're here stating and the governments that you need to know about. First of all, the activities that South Africans are up to, and how they're intending to leverage on the BRICS to also influence across the African continent. Just last month, the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, also indicated that there are concerns that some development in West Africa it's not being helpful when it comes to growth and greater investment of the continent. We know that Ghana is the host of the African Continental Free Trade Area. However, the recent developments of is beginning in the works of Cyril Ramaphosa to threaten, the advancement of that framework. And it's the reason Africa says they're willing to work with the African Union to support countries which recently experienced task. And we must say that every country across the continent will be on a path to constitutional law, which will now provide a framework for international trade and financial groups. So these are some of the issues coming up already ahead of that summit. There's the issue as to whether or not the Russian president Vladimir Putin will be part of this engagement. He has confirmed participation, except to say that according to the president of South Africa.
Well, Blessed, if you could reposition yourself for us, we'll be grateful so we can really have a clear feed from where you are. There seemed to be some interference in sound from where you are. So if you could reposition yourself a bit so we could have a clear sound from your end, it will be grateful because you're giving us some very good information about what's happening, but there is an interference in your sound from where you are. So if you could reposition yourself a bit for us, it would be a great deal for us and the viewers. Let's try again. So how is South Africa itself gearing up for this summit? All right. So for those of you who just joined us, the question you probably may be asking yourself is, so what is BRICS? Let's share with you what we do know about BRICS. Now, BRICS is, an association or a union of a sort of 5 nations. So we have Brazil, we have Russia, we have India, China, and South Africa. And this union was founded in 2009 as an informal club to challenge U.S. and the Western dominance. So they were tired of our U.S. was just, moving everybody along. So they decided to form this one to challenge them. Now, these countries form a quarter of the world's population, So if you join the world together, they make 1/4 of the world. They are so that's what it is. I mean, they constitute a quarter of the global economy. They make up 40% of the world's population. Their focus includes economic cooperation and increasing multilateral trade and development amongst member states. Now, we understand other countries want to join them. Over 40 already have, submitted interest to join them. We understand that Iran has submitted interest to join. Argentina has also done the same. Cuba has. Indonesia has. Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Democratic Republic of Congo. We have Egypt. We have United Arab Emirates. We have Bolivia, Comoros, and Ethiopia. And Blessed Soga has rejoined us. Okay, so we are trying the lines to get him back. But in the meantime, to other stories now. Land Commission is this afternoon responding to a study conducted by the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime in 2021, which showed that the Lands Commission was the most corrupt institution in Ghana in 2021. The data showed the top bribe-taking institutions in Ghana, with Lands Commission officers collecting the biggest bribes among public officials in Ghana. The Lands Commission, an agency under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, in the study showed that officials at the agency take cash bribes with an average bribe size of 1,669. The Ghana Police Service is at the 12th position. I've been speaking to the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission, James Kobina Datson.
Well, we are responding to this because of the publicity that it has generated recently. I recall last year granting an interview to a media house and informing them that we think that the way the research is conducted, there should be another approach to this, that when you want to bring out something into the public domain, you also aim to help us to correct what we are doing, which is not right. And so if you come and you have an engagement and we are not aware, and the first time that we become aware is when it goes public, there may be some inaccuracies in the report. So as you know, when auditors, for example, go around to do auditing, there's something called an exit conference. So they will meet management, and then some of the issues, of course, they may not be expert in our field. So there will be the need for some clarification. Some of them are not acceptable to them, so it goes all the way to Parliament. The Public Accounts Committee of Parliament will have to invite us for us to address some of them. Some of them, by the time you are meeting the Public Accounts Committee, you would have even resolved. So these are the approaches that we would recommend that they be adopted. As I said in my presentation, we are not defending our staff because we are not angels in that office. All that we want is that if some staff have been involved in these unacceptable practices, let us know, because we also have our own sanctions. Recently, some staff were involved in stamp duty fraud, and they are before the courts now. They've been interdicted. So it is not an institution that condones illegality in any form at all. And so we think that when any such research is being undertaken, you can secretly go out there, do it, get your findings, but there should be some kind of engagement. As I said, every staff in the office is properly identified. You will see my name, you will see my rank. And so if somebody is out there soliciting and the person is not a staff, and you go and transact with that person and the person takes money from you, then these researchers come and then they interview you. So, I went to Lands and somebody took my money. And it is all about Lands Commission as to who they spoke to, whether the person is an official of the office, whether the person is a Goro boy or an estate agent. It is very difficult for us to determine. And we think that they have to take a second look at that approach, that if we are involved, they should let us know. If those people too are involved, they should let us know. Then we can find a way of getting rid of the bad nuts amongst them. But we want to encourage the public that it's an office, it's a public institution, and we have the structures to deal with your complaints, that people should be able to come to us across the country so that not only to access our services, but also to ensure that the right thing is done. I said also that we think that technology can help eliminate some of these things. If, for example, you can make your payment online using the Ghana.gov platform, you don't have to pay bribe to the computer. You just have to pay the exact amount and your receipt will be printed for you. You attach it to your document and submit it. So there's no bribe here. You just pay the exact amount that is assessed for you. These are statutory fees you pay, and then the processing is done for you. And so that these experiences that people have, we think that they are not acceptable. Let's look at it again, and I'm sure we'll have a better and a more productive report the next time around that they do such a research. Who took the bribe? If there's evidence that the person is a staff, you can see my tag and my name on it clearly. If you think that you want to help us solve a problem, you have to report. Sometimes somebody will tell you that, oh, I came to the office and somebody tried to take money from me. Okay, who attempted to take money from you, or who took your money? They go silent because they don't want to expose people. They don't want to report people. But we are helping to build our society. We are helping to have a better lands commission. So if somebody misbehaves, please let us know. And the other thing too we do, when we recruit new staff, we give them detailed orientation so that they know the do's and the don'ts. If you do something that is wrong, as I said, you will face the law. We will interdict you. We have a disciplinary committee. All of those things. Of course, if we are disciplining somebody, it may not come out in the public domain. But we are not sleeping. We are dealing with such situations as and when they come. But I want to say that a lot of these things that are going on don't directly involve our staff. They involve people who have made it their business. They go out there. They are in the chief's premises, facilitating sale or purchase of land, and then they will continue and say, oh, I will take it and go and register it for you. So they are all over the place. What we are saying is that the technology that we were embarking upon, we want to ensure that all of these things become a thing of the past. That if for example, the bank can do online search before they grant a mortgage, if the chiefs have the right staff in their secretariat to prepare the land documents and give it to you to come and register, we don't think that these people will be needed. In any case, what we are also doing under the estate agency law is to ensure that these facilitators, because it's a profession, surveying is a profession, estate management is a profession, estate agency or facility management is a profession, that these people are well trained. These the lawyers, there are other professionals in this field, surveyors, who have their own fixed addresses, who can be contacted. If there's a problem, you can go to them. Not the people who sit under the tree and they take your document, they have no fixed address, and when there's a problem, you cannot even find them. They go underground. So we think that moving forward, that is another way to go, that we have people who are trained, who can handle documents on behalf of the public. Because the reality is that you are journalists, it's a profession. Land administration is also another profession. So you don't, as a layman, you may not understand. We think that the services of these professionals must be used so that, we all speak the same language. The man submitting the document understands what we do, and we also understand and appreciate where he's coming from. Then together we can help resolve all the challenges that are associated with land transactions and things of that nature. It is not about being victimized. We are building our society, And we think that the only way you can help us is to expose the wrongdoing, and we will deal with a situation like that. We haven't had a situation where because somebody has reported a staff or an agent, then that person is victimized. It rather gives us an opportunity to deal with your case the way it is expected. And so there's no victimization here. We don't do that. All we want to do is do what is right. We expect the public, please help us to know who is doing what is wrong, and then we will also be able to render better services to you.
But if you allow the Goro boys to be on your compound, because that's you have your office, you know the people you work with. So if you allow them there, someone who doesn't know your staff will come and deal with them. So that you cannot exonerate yourself completely from what's happening.
Yeah, that is true. Even the infrastructure, the office arrangement that we have today, where we have offices scattered all over the place, if it's an office where there's one gate and there's one entrance, it will be easy to deal with the people who are coming there and they have no business coming to our premises. But we have a situation where the way the offices are scattered, people just come in anytime. And mind you, it's a public office. So sometimes it's difficult to say, hey, you go away or you don't come here. The man can come holding his briefcase or his laptop, and he's saying that I want to come and do a search. I want to come and do this or that. So you don't just drive people away. You must have a reason to drive them away. And these people, they come in there, haven't gone to take documents from other people. Sometimes they will stand outside the premises and they'll be watching. They see that somebody is coming there. Obviously, the person doesn't even know where he's going. Then they will cash in and say, can I help? And then they go in there, and this is where the trouble begins. And so it is not a question of, you know these people, and why don't you drive them away? They don't come there pretending or behaving as if they are not holding anything. They come there and they are coming to transact. And it's a public office. You cannot drive them away. So that is the difficulty that we have. But we are saying that in the shortest possible time, technology is going to aid us, that the owner of a document is the one who will come and transact, that there will be no need as a result of technology for any middleman to come in. That where middlemen will come in, they will come in as proper trained estate agents representing their clients, like lawyers do, like any other professionals do. So that is where we are aiming to get to.
All right, so if you go to the Lands Commission and someone takes money from you, report it. That's what the Lands Commission is telling us today. But let's talk about the economy now, focusing on the Bank of Ghana and find out whether or not before the IMF deal, what really happened to the debt exchange program. Isaac Kofi is with our data and research team, and he joins me in studio with some more analysis on that. Kofi, what does the data say?
Right, so Brace, we know that because of our unsustainable debt situation, that was the reason why we had to do the domestic debt exchange program. And without that, there was no way we were going to get that $3 billion bailout package from the IMF. Mm-hmm. And so we had to do this both at the external level and at the domestic level. So let me take you through the domestic level, the target. So before the first target or the initial target of this DDEP was 137 billion Ghana cedis. That was the total amount we were aiming to restructure to come back to that 55% debt to GDP ratio, which the IMF deems sustainable for us to get the program. And then we realized that government did a number of revisions in terms of this target. And so that 137 billion Ghana cedis was revised not once, not twice, but 3 times, from 137 now to 97.7 billion Ghana cedis. And so this simply tells you that if you look at the first target, which is 137 billion, and the target that government actually worked with to get that 85% success rate, then the difference between the initial target and the target that was really, utilized in the DDEP, the difference was around 40 billion Ghana cedis. Okay. So just by government's decisions to, exclude some people, which according to the finance ministry, these people were allowed to, trade their bonds for treasury bills. There were some other people that were also deemed not, qualified to participate in this DDEP. And so all of these people were excluded, and the government had to forgo 40 billion Ghana cedis. Now, after this, remember the governor made it very clear today that the finance ministry went to IMF and, they saw the target and all of that, and they realized that without they going to the Bank of Ghana for them to suffer a haircut of 50%, there was no way that we were going to meet that threshold of 55% debt to GDP ratio. And so the Bank of Ghana had to come in to take a haircut of almost 48.8 billion Ghana cedis.
They've made this point before.
Exactly. So governments went around some 40 billion cedis and then goes to Bank of Ghana to say, if you don't rescue us with a haircut of 48.8 billion cedis, we will not be able to get the IMF program. So the question we are asking is, government allow some people to trade their bonds for treasury bills. In fact, it said some people were excluded. Individual bondholders were excluded, but later on we realized all of those people were roped into the program and asked to come and exchange. So for going 40 billion just by exemption and going to Bank of Ghana to take a haircut of 48.8 billion, we are asking, was it an easy way that government felt it was going to use to get to that 55% threshold?
Was it not to protect probably the individuals who had invested in the economy and who were not willing to be part of the program, and say that, well, the easy thing is for the state to take on this debt and allow the individuals to keep the investment?
The trump card was that it was time for burden sharing.
Exactly.
So if it's burden sharing, that means that you need to share the burden in a certain way that somebody doesn't carry the entire burden, or it doesn't look like some people are walking freely. And we need clarity on those who were allowed to trade their bonds for treasury bill. That's all we're asking. We need clarity on that, and why Bank of Ghana had to take that heavy hit. Because we feel that per the data, if government had gone ahead with that initial target of 137 billion Ghana cedis, I am simply not sure Bank of Ghana would have gone ahead to take that heavy hit of close to 50 billion Ghana cedis. Okay.
Now, Dr. Ernest Addison, who is governor of the central bank, has been addressing some matters related to the bank's activities today.
National capital market for new financing immediately triggered a liquidity crisis for government, spilling over into a balance of payments crisis, as the country had to continue to honor its debt service obligations, energy payments, and import bill. In keeping up with these critical external payments, the Bank of Ghana lost $500 million in external reserves in just 2 months, with no new inflows of foreign currency from the usual annual Eurobond issuance to replenish its reserves. Furthermore, to help address government's liquidity crisis, the bank extended additional overdraft to the government to address auction failures and prevent domestic default, and enabled government to meet domestic debt obligations and other critical payments needed to avoid a disorderly halt to economic activity. Throughout the first half of 2022, there was no new foreign financing until July, when the Afri-Exim Bank stepped in to support with $750 million. This is a typical replay of what is referred to in the literature as a first-generation macroeconomic and balance of payments crisis. You will recall that many people doubted if the economy was in crisis because they did not hear that interest rates on bonds were not being paid in early 2022. They did not see queues at the pump for petrol and diesel. There were no shortages of international essential items on the market, and they did not hear that public sector workers, including civil servants, the police and the military,
were not being paid their salaries. The reason was that the Bank of Ghana had provided the needed support to keep the economy going. These are the circumstances that led government to approach the IMF for support in July 2022. The IMF immediately sent in a mission to assess the economic situation. The mission concluded that the economy was at a tipping point, and it was agreed with the understanding of the IMF that the Bank of Ghana should continue to provide the necessary support to keep the economy running until a reform program had been put in place, which will trigger IMF financing. The portrait painted above of the Ghanaian economy in 2022 was similar to what pertained in many other frontier and emerging market economies. Key among countries with similar experiences were Egypt, Argentina, Turkey, Kenya, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, just to mention a few. What separated these countries and their ability to hold their economies until a package of reforms were introduced was the availability of policy buffers and resilience of key.
So that was the Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Ernest Addison there. Now let's bring you something that's sad and shocking. The tragic phenomenon of children taking their own lives is a heart-wrenching issue that has become increasingly prevalent in recent years. These young ones are extinguished far too early, leaving families, communities, and the country in general to grappling with the aftermath. According to experts from the mental health struggles of these children to the excessive academic pressure driven by high expectations from parents or educational institutions can push children to the brink. In part 2 of our hotline documentary, Whispers in the Dark, my colleague Ohim Interior delves into what pushes some children to take their own lives and explores the vital roles parents and educational institutions and institutions of state can play in preventing these tragic losses.
Jared was a stellar student and academically disciplined who maintained an academic GPA of 4.0. He was awarded a Triton College Scholarship Program scholarship after high school in 2019. His parents and siblings, who are yet to come to terms with his death, have been left in a state of confusion.
Death is death, but suicide death is a different death. Why is it different? Because the loved ones left behind are left to ponder as to why. You can blame it on anybody but yourself or somebody. So that's why it makes it a unique death. If somebody killed or if they had a car accident, you can just say, oh, he was on his way to a different town and then he got, rear-ended or T-boned by another vehicle, and so he died of a motor vehicle accident. But in this case, it's unique, and you just wonder, what was the person experiencing, right? Why were you not available? What could you have done differently to have helped the person? And then you just keep wondering. It never ends. And the pain, I just can't describe.
Little did the family know Jared, described as a complete student, was battling with depression, a mental health condition from his teenage days, something he kept from his relatives.
He did actually start experiencing that, and he never discussed it. But just combing through his stuff and some of the notes that he had left, was able to confirm that he was battling depression and suicidal thoughts, and he didn't know how to share it. But I quite remember that although he was very enthusiastic, he was one of the kids that was very shy and almost very isolative in most instances. So all the time I had to call him to come out and do stuff. But I never connected the dots because he came out, he'll do what he needs to do. But I didn't realize that when he was alone, he was struggling with his mind. He was battling his mind, and he was in a really, really dark place that he never disclosed.
There is, however, hope for people with suicidal ideation and other mental health issues. The Mental Health Authority has introduced a life-saving intervention by offering persons who require psychosocial support the opportunity to call and receive instant advice from mental health experts. The call comes at no cost to callers. Health Minister Kwekwaji Maimenu says he's aware there has been an upsurge in the number of suicide cases involving children.
We are very much aware. We have a whole agency that works in that, Mental Health Authority. Some time back, this thing was coming up. There was an upsurge. And the chief executive of that authority actually had to talk to the nation and things like that. We need to get some reports from them at the moment.
Whilst promising an action on the situation, Mr. Menu, who is also a member of parliament for Doma Central, described as prompter details of our findings on how lives of children are being lost to suicide.
We have created what we call the Psychology Council. It is working now. We are registering psychologists. Some of these challenges we need to resolve with some psychology advice and things like that. So we are head on with that. But you see, there are certain things that you wouldn't know immediately when it's mental disorders until something happens. But I think this is a prompter. We'll see how we can reconcentrate and put attentions in that respect.
So the full documentary plays tonight at 8:30 p.m. Do make a date. So let me take you to a festival for which has become something that people look forward to. But the name is one that, depends on where you're coming from. You mentioned it some way, but it is Chale Wote. So this year, this is a festival of arts and culture. So people paint the street, they bring art, you look at it, there's a cultural display. But there's something unique about this year, because this year it's moving to a place that is regarded as part of Ghana's history. You cannot tell history, the country's history, without mentioning that place. It's Osu. My colleague Jacqueline and Sumaya Boa is there now. Let's join her for update on what is happening there. The event is happening today till 27th of this month. So Jacqueline, you are there. What's happening?
All right, Brace. So currently we are here at the Osu Castle, and the procession is about to begin. Just as you can see, they are all clothed in white, about to start the procession into the main Osu street. So they started not long ago. Initially, there was a bit of registration, and the people were gathering around. And this is also the 13th edition of the Chale Wote Festival. So I have one of the members here who will just give me a brief as to what they did earlier. So they poured libation. We just want to know more about it. So, can you tell me more about what just happened earlier?
We are processing from the Christian Board Castle to the Osu Township. Now, as you can see, we have the Osu Ulomo, who is the principal chief Ulomo of the Osu Stu. Yeah. So, you need to, once you are passing to somebody's house, you need to go to the person's house and ask for permission.
Okay, so that was what you did earlier.
We went there for the Ulomo to pray for us so that it will be a successful procession. Okay. What is going to be any bad or any negative energy should be drive away. Okay. So we went there to pay homage to the ancestors. Okay. So as you can see, we went to the Ulomo's place to pray for us so that we can have a successful procession.
Okay. All right, Ni, I see you have this around your neck. What does it signify? And first of all, what's the name of it?
It's called Isop. But in the local language, you call it Nyanyina.
Nyanyina?
Nyanyina.
Okay.
Nyanyina, but that is called Isop. We are used to drive away negative energies. As we process through the township, we have some bad and negative energies around. So this is in spirituality, it's used to drive away negative energies and also serve as a cleanser for purification.
All right, sure. So, currently, where are we heading to now? Where is...
Towards to the Osu Township and back to the Christian Board Castle again.
Okay. All right. So just as you heard from me, this is going to be a very silent procession. There wouldn't be much noise right now. Everyone is going to be quiet, very, very silent. They're just thanking their gods. That is why they are clothed in white right now. So just as there is going to be much more development, we will definitely come to you. We also have Miss Bell here. Miss Bell, how are you?
I'm okay.
So how do you see the whole procession so far? It just started.
It's spiritual. And it's going well put together.
Okay. All right. And what is I see you having this one. Does it mean anything to you?
It's an African accessory, but yes, you can put some cleansing spirits in there. So as we are walking, if the energy doesn't feel right, you cleanse yourself.
Okay. All right. So are you going to be here throughout? Because it's a week-long festivity. How long are you going to be here throughout?
I can't tell because I'm also having an event coming up at my pub. So it will be on and off. But I'll make sure I'm here most of the time to have the Chalawate feel.
Okay. All right. So just as you heard from Ms. Bell, the Chalawate Festival just began and is a very quiet procession. So we are joining them to get to the Osu Township itself. And just as more develops, we would definitely report on that.
So this beautiful event is on from today till 27th. Be there and let's experience culture in a different dimension. That's Chale Water for you. Proudly partnered by the Multimedia Group. I mean, we make it happen. Well, my name is Samuel Kojo Braze, and on behalf of the team, I say thank you so much for being with us. But as I end, let me say a special birthday to you, Chairman Alamu of Ghana National Gas Company. Chairman, have a brilliant day. From all of us here at Joy News, it's a happy birthday to you. Good afternoon.
In a world where determination meets innovation,
Chalawate. When everybody came out, everybody's looking good, displaying their art, beautiful art everywhere. This is my 5th year coming in a row. So I'm here every August for the festival. It's been amazing being with my black people all day, every day. It's been great.
It's so fun here. There are a lot of art things to do.
So I personally love it, and I love the artworks. I love Chalawate 2022. It's fantastic. This year's experience is marvelous.
It's amazing. It's Chalawate Festival, y'all. You ought to be here.
The paintings, the people, the Ghanaians were awesome.
Everyone, when you're in Ghana around the same time, make sure you check it out. It's really happening.
Crystal clear and thrilling podcasts and live shows, download and listen to us on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, MyJoy Online, Amazon services like Echo, Amazon Music, and Audible, Stitcher, Adom Online, Overcast, and Pandora. Take note of everything. Sign up for the multimedia digital platforms now to stay updated.
Hello there, it's a beautiful day and I'm so excited to be here with you, obviously to share with you everything in your world of showbiz. But most importantly, I hope you had a good weekend, coupled with rains and exciting events as well. But in all, we're just going to put everything together for you to experience that weekend as well. My name is Doreen Avio and today I'm here with some amazing people. Just relax as I bring them to you one after the other. If you're just joining me, this is Let's Talk Showbiz, and of course, as I said, it comes with so much excitement. Should I say for some time now, we've just been drumming it into your ears. Chaliwate Festival is finally here, and it's all starting today. Obviously, there's going to be a procession, and it comes with all the mountain of paintings and, you know, beautiful arts and all that. It has started today, so just so you know, my colleague IB was there, and he had to just make us have a feel of what to expect in the coming days. So let's check out what IB has for us today.
So we're here at the Christian Castle, the first day of the Charlotte Street Art Festival 2013, and you can already see, setup is ongoing. All the exhibitors are setting up here in the castle gardens, and I mean, we're going to go everywhere. But first, he says he calls himself, or his name is Afrohonism. You know, how are you doing?
Good.
So why Afrohonism? What is the rationale behind Afrohonism?
Afrohonism is a made-up word. It talks about the history of cow horns and how history cow played an important role in Ghanaian and Africa history.
Okay. So what is this? What do you use for this in the first place?
Actually, my works are made up of cow horns with fishing line. So I assemble them together. I cut the cow horns into pieces, then I assemble them, then weave with fishing line together to create portraits and abstract figures.
So these are cow horns?
Cow horns.
Cow horns?
Yes.
Like ping.
No. Cow.
Cow. They're horns. Oh, okay. The cow horns.
Yeah.
Horn
of
a cow. And then you cut them into these shapes?
Into pieces, then I arrange them, assemble them together, and I stitch with fishing line.
What are you trying to communicate with this? What is this?
This work is titled Tambu Woman. It's the Afro-Brazilians who migrated from Brazil to Ghana.
Okay.
To current Ghana. This work talks about the freedom of women who imparted through slavery, how they imparted freedom through slavery.